Hello everyone, I hope you're having a nice day, and in today's video we're going to be taking a look at GENGAR VMAX. So in my personal opinion, this could be the best single strike attacker that we've seen in a long time, and this will be coming out in our next set, so Fusion Arts. I know we've just had the release of Evolving Skies, but I did think this was worth mentioning just in case you were maybe a little bit disappointed with single strike right now, and I do think this could be the best single strike attacker in the game. So just going briefly over what Gengar VMAX and Gengar V does. Gengar V, pretty standard stuff, crit cost of 2, weakness to fighting is a little bit annoying, but other than that, it's a fairly bog standard evolving V. Dark Slumber only doing 40 damage is really not that impressive, but we do have to remember all the single strike support, which we'll go over in the video. And then Pain Burst doing 190 and 30 to itself. It's not great, it's not ideal, it's not what you'll be attacking with. But the main star of the show is Gengar VMAX. So this card, first of all, retreat cost of 3 is a little bit unfortunate because our Houndooms have retreat cost of 2, so you ideally want to be playing Air Balloon in this list and not playing Force Switch, but unfortunately that might have to be the route you take. Weakness to fighting is of course unideal, and we'll talk about that a little bit later on in the video, but unfortunately weakness to Urshifu is something you're going to have to live with. But the 2 attacks is where this card really excels for me. So Panic Fear, for 2 Dark Energy, it does 60 damage for every Pokemon V and Pokemon GX in play. And you may be thinking, opponents, sorry. And you may be thinking, okay, why does it say GX if we're getting this after GX Pokemon are rotated? And that's because this was released as part of a special deck for Japan that came out before our rotation took place. So that's why the card had to be printed with and GX Pokemon in play. I'm not sure if that will actually carry over to the English translation. I'm pretty sure it will still be GX and V, just so the attack is a little bit better and expanded as well. But for now, it's Pokemon V and GX, and I'm going to do some numbers on a slide I've got ready, so that'll be easy to explain as to why this attack is really good. And then the second attack for 3 Dark Energy, Gmax Engulf does 250, and then this Pokemon can't attack during next turn. So you might have to play quite a heavy switch focused deck, but the 250 doesn't seem that impressive until you factor in things like Karen, single strike energy, the fact you have Houndoom to search out the single strike energy, and that's kind of like why this deck works. Basically, it doesn't look terribly great. You know, there's nothing that really screams, oh, this can do 330 damage for 2 energy, but trust me, this card is a lot better than what it may look on paper. So the single strike support that we currently have follows as Houndoom with the single strike roar ability. We've all seen this before 100 times. The single strike energy, of course, the Tower of Darkness for consistency, the single strike Scroll of Scorn, it's a mouthful, which essentially lets you have like a recoil attack, which is essentially a third attack, I guess, for Gengar VMAX. And then Karen's Conviction, which is an amazing card in the late game. So as soon as a Gengar VMAX goes down, then Karen's Conviction is doing an additional 60 damage. So that 250 is suddenly doing 310, and then you factor in single strike energy, and all of a sudden, you know, three prize Pokemon VMAX for your opponent's control all just go down in a single hit, which is why this deck can be quite scary. So just want to very briefly gloss over why the previous single strike VMAX failed, not including Umbreon LOL, because Umbreon is definitely the exception, but in terms of the ones that didn't do as well, and I've noticed now that I don't have Slowking, F in the chat for Slowking, Single Strike, Urshifu, Tornadus, and Duraludon. So too many energy or awkward attack costs. For example, Urshifu and Tornadus both needed 4 energy, Gengar needs 3. That doesn't sound like too much of a difference, but when you factor in that you need multiple Houndoom on the bench to begin with, needing 4 energy is quite costly. I'm not saying these decks are particularly bad, and I would definitely recommend at least trying one of these out currently, just before Gengar comes out, but it's just very awkward to get 4 energy out every time. Lacking type coverage is the other big factor, so Tornadus being Colorless type, you're not hitting anything for weakness. Duraludon VMAX being a Dragon type means you don't have a weakness, but you're also not hitting anyone else for weakness. So I also should have mentioned that Duraludon has a very awkward attack cost as well. So yeah, Duraludon not hitting anyone for weakness, and then Single Strike can hit a Turn for weakness, which is great. But apart from that, pretty lackluster in terms of overall consistency. And I know there's an argument that single strike Urshifu is underrated or whatever, but it's just not as competitively viable. And I think it would be making waves if it was. You know what I'm saying? So back to Gengar. This is the numbers for Panic Fears. Of course, feel free to pause it and take a quick glance. But yeah, this is where things get really insane. So, for example, this might all seem like a big jumble, but what we have on the left hand side is just the amount of Pokemon V our opponent would typically have in play in a game, and then on the right just follows it with the single strike energy attached. So let's just say your opponent has one Pokemon V and your two energy attached are single strike energy. You're only doing 100 damage, right? That's not amazing. But as soon as your opponent has three Pokemon V, then you're doing 220, for example. And then you start to look at key numbers, and then this is like how you can plan out your match. So ideally, you want to be aiming for at least a two-hit KO. So even with just three Pokemon V, you're doing 180. So you don't even need single strike energy to get a two-hit KO in that sense. But you will need to be trying to just at least reach 220, for example, to knock out Suicune. And then I put six Pokemon V. I'm pretty sure that's supposed to be five, by the way. I'm pretty sure. I don't know why I typed six there, but it really needs to be five because any more than that, and you're probably facing Eternatus, which of course is a great matchup because you just slap two single strike energy and murder them all. But basically, three Pokemon V is probably where you'll be doing most games because, for example, they need the VMAX, they need an evolving V on the bench they can evolve into. They're probably playing down a Crobat, an Eldegoss, or a Kricketune. You know, it all just accelerates. Sometimes decks like Suicune may get away with not benching too many Vs or VMAXs, just another Suicune. But apart from that exception, I would say most decks certainly will want to overplay it in terms of how many V Pokemon they have in play. So GMAX and Golf, not a whole lot to talk about. I realized I didn't include Karen for the Panic Fear numbers, and that was kind of deliberate because I'll probably be here all day trying to come up with all these calculations. But basically, Karen is adding plus 20 damage for each prize card your opponent has taken. So if you want a quick reference, then if your opponent's already knocked out one Gengar VMAX, yeah, that's a good one. If they've already knocked out one Gengar, you're doing plus 60, right? So, for example, I'm just quickly looking over here. If you have several single strike energy on, let's say two, and they only have one Pokemon V in play, they're being very conservative, then you could just play a Karen and you're doing 160, right? So that's still decent, and of course it scales up with the more Pokemon V they have in play. So that's a dealio with Karen. So Max and Golf, 250 base, and then one single strike energy, 270, then 290, then 310. Getting three on one Gengar is very risky. You do play the Vitality pot, but you ideally want to be aiming for, well, just 290 roughly, because you'll probably be taking the 2-hit KOs with the first attack, Panic Fear, and then you want to use Gmax and Golf towards the late game. And then just some potential downsides of this card or deck has to worry about, I guess, is there's no capture energy, right? So the 3 dark energy and the 2 dark energy, it doesn't strictly matter because you're playing single strike energy regardless and basic dark, but you have to play just those energy. Like you can't play capture, which is really unfortunate, and it's probably one of the reasons why not a lot of people are terribly excited for this, because a lack of capture energy is something quite concerning for Houndoom, because, you know, Single Strike, Urshifu, Tornadus, all the rest of them, they all run capture energy because it's just such a good card, and you can get away with it with the other Single Strike attackers, except for Duraludon, of course, but F in the chat for Duraludon does not see any play. But capture energy, big card, unfortunately you can't play it. I mentioned I'm talking about weakness early on. That was mainly for Zapdos. It wasn't for Urshifu, because Urshifu is kind of in a hilarious spot where if they do their first impression move and do 300, you can just manually attach a single strike energy and a scroll of scorn, I think it is, and then just one it kill them, which is hilarious. But the Galarian Zapdos is the bigger threat because it just takes a one hit KO. Obviously, you could try and factor in stuff like big charms and whatever, but of course, you know, as soon as you start putting damage counters on with Houndoom, it becomes really awkward to manage, and yeah, it's very difficult. I don't see you beating a deck that can consistently find its Galarian Zapdos all the time, so definitely something to worry about. So this is an example list from Japan. Obviously, because as I mentioned earlier, they had this card long before our rotation, so that's why there's stuff like Pokemon Communication here. Personally, I would just say swap the Mew out for either a fourth Vitality Pod or a fourth Tower of Darkness, or maybe even a fourth Switch if you really wanted to. There's like so many options you can go for with the Mew. And then for the four Communication, I would strongly suggest probably I would think a split of 3 Great Ball and then another Evolution Incense. So it's a 3-3 split of Evolution Incense and Great Ball. And then just going back to the Pokemon, all the rest of it's in standard, by the way. So a 3-3 line of Gengar, don't need to play 4-4. You could if you really wanted to, but 3-3 is great. And then 3-2 line of Umbreon. So Umbreon being pretty big still because it's an alternate attacker in the deck, because you obviously you can just attack with Umbreon whenever you feel like it. But it's also just a boss. It's a free boss that you can use at any point. And of course, opponent has 3 Pokemon V in play, Panic, Fear, always knocking out those evolving Vs. So you can just boss them up and go for knocking out 3 Pokemon V support. I'm not sure where I'm going with this, but there's just many different things you can do, especially in the late game. And then 1 Crobat V, 4-3 line of Houndoom, which makes sense. A Morpeko that I have to admit I have not seen in a very long time, but I don't remember the card being very good. I'm guessing it's in here for a reason, but I honestly couldn't tell you what that reason is. If you know, then please let me know in the comment section. But apart from that, that's pretty much it for the list. It's also worth noting this list plays 3 Hiding Dark Energy, which I find really interesting because you can't find it with Houndoom. Like, you have to just manually attach them, which is a little bit of a worry, but it does, I guess, make sense because you will need the retreat cost to be shifted if you want to continuously use your 1-hit KO moves. So yeah, that's about all that I've got for Gengar. So some closing thoughts and a shout out. The shout out, this one's for Team Vikavolt because this video was heavily inspired by Team Vikavolt's coverage of several Gengar VMAX deck lists that they did recently, and they talked about Gengar, and that suddenly sparked my memory of this card and thinking it was really good. So huge shout outs to them. Please go check them out. They have an amazing channel. You will not be disappointed. Gengar VMAX, any closing thoughts? I do think this will be a tier 1 deck. I think a lot of people said that about Rayquaza. Look what happened. But this card, there's just too much going for it. There is just too much there that suggests that this will be a good deck. There is the first attack, which is amazing. It's always getting 2-hit KOs no matter what. And the second attack is a 1-hit KO move that's easy to power up in the late game. Keyword there, easy. 3 energy makes all the difference from 4. And yeah, that's all I have to say for this one. Thank you for watching. Let me know what you think in the comment section, and I hope to see you all next time.